So in this video we're going to see how to transition between an advanced Lightning Strike Radar starter to the actual OMNI version. One of the first questions that we have to make ourselves is why would we want to use such amulets as the crystallized omniscience? So if you go to the wiki, we can see all the properties that it gives. The OMNI amulet is an aspirational chase unique that can drop from one of the endgame bosses, that is the City Exarch, and this is the red one, and it has an approximated drop rate of 2%. As you can see here in the wiki, this was also extensively tested by the community. It's pretty accurate. So the unique mechanic that this amulet provides is that it merges all your normal attributes, for example the intelligence, the strength, or the dexterity, into a single one called omniscience, and then the amulet will provide some bonuses based on the amount of omniscience that you currently have. So let me show you that in POE. So I currently have, like I said, no attributes at all. All these attributes are actually the base one, and if I take out the omniscience, I will get all my attributes back. So all the stuff that provides some attributes, for example my Blizzard Crown, actually gives me some dexterity and intelligence, that as we can see here. So when I equip the omniscience, I actually lose all that attributes bonuses, and all of that, like I said, is being converted to the omniscience new stat. You can see that new stat in the MISC section right on top here. As you can see, my total omniscience is 1292. So going back to the wiki, the bonuses that the amulet provides us is that per 15 omniscience we will get 1% to all elemental resistances, and at the same time we will have the penetration of 1% of the elemental resistances of the enemy mobs. So this is pretty interesting because it provides us a way to scale in 2 dimensions. We can scale our offenses by getting more penetration, and also at the same time we can scale our defenses by getting more elemental resistances. So going back to the initial question of why would we want to use this amulet, the answer is actually that the amulet itself is actually pretty good, and also the penetration of the elemental resistances, it's going to scale our damage really well. This is the version of the build before doing the transition to the OMNI one, and as you can see we have a total amount of 1.8, almost 1.9 million DPS with the melee hit. And I'm going to show you the configuration. That is a pretty conservative one. I have only set the charges on, the elusive effect, and the resonance from the Trinity support skill, and I basically have nothing else. I reset the enemy as one of the pinnacle bosses. We have no shock, no any warrior thing in the configuration. And yeah, we're going to see now how does the version with the OMNI looks like. And yeah, so we switch to my current version. As you can see, I'm already level 100, but the tree I'm using is actually ones that requires only level 93, so that's fair for the cooperation. And as you can see, we have a total amount of 4 million DPS. Yeah, that's more than the double that we had with the previous version without using the omniscience. But this is a bit tricky because the transition is not about buying the amulet and equipping it, but you only are going to need some extra stuff that you need to build around, so you can take the major benefits from the omniscience shenanigans that we talked earlier in the video. And we are also going to switch some of the points that we had in this area to get even more attributes. So if we take a closer look to the configuration, we have the same configuration. We have the charges, the elusive effect, the resonance, and basically nothing else. We are setting, of course, the enemy as the one of the final bosses. And if you go to the calcs tab, we're going to take a closer look of what is actually the Omni doing for the build, and we're going to see how does the damage actually gets doubled. So this is the calc page for the vaal line strike skill or main skill, and this box right here is the one for the damage calculation. And as you can see, we have the base damage right here, that is one for each of the types of elementals. And then we have this row for the all of the totals increased mods, and that those mods are actually going to multiply the base. And then we have the more multipliers that are going to then further multiplies the result from this product. And finally, after all of that, we are going to multiply that damage for the effective DPS mods. And here is when the crystallized omniscience actually kicks in. As you can see, we are treating the enemies as if they had minus 85 resistances, because we have so many penetration that our damage is actually being multiplied or amplified by 85%. That is what these mods actually means. Yeah, so you can see, for example, the base damage, the base resistances of the bosses is at 50, and then we have a reduction from the ascendance that gives us a kind of exposure of 20 less resistances of the bosses, or as I would say, to our nearby enemies. And then we have some penetration from our sources like the Trinity and our Imperial Claw. And then we have 86 penetration, basically that's coming all from the amulet, thanks to our high number of omniscience that we have in the build. So as you can see, all the previous calculation with the base, the increase, and the more stuff is then multiplied by 85% of the total of the damage, and basically that's where the damage, the increase, the high scaling damage that we got over the double is coming from. So this is the main reason why the Omni is such a good amulet, and that's basically why everyone uses it in any build that does attack type damage, that also does elemental damage, right? So in order to do the transition to the Omni build, we have to get a lot of stats from the other pieces. So for example, one of the main thing that you have to get a ring with a lot of stats. As you can see, I have here a ring that has all three of the attributes with a high roll. I think this is 2 tier 2 and 1 tier 3. That is the dexterity. And I also choose to have in the amethyst base that has some chaos res. And you also have to make sure that this is a shaper base ring, because we are going to also use the mark of the elder that provides us with a lot of damage. Then we're going to craft a blizzard crown or buy in the trade that has at least one good roll of attributes. As you can see here, I have 2 of them and a high life and basically nothing else. A better roll here would be to also have some sort of accuracy, some flat accuracy. I have here a percentage accuracy that is not so good, but getting here a flat accuracy is actually very nice. But yeah, we are talking about having an item with 4 mods, that would be way more expensive than something like this. And then I got this pair of gloves that basically has a high resistance, life, and I crafted the aspect of the cat here so I can use the less duration support for the decrease uptime of the aspect of the cat aura, so we can have the frenzy charges and the power charges up all the time. I also got the one of the Eldritch implicits as the extra accuracy per frenzy charge. This is actually pretty good because with the omniscience we are losing all of our dexterity, and with that we are going to lose a lot of our accuracy flat that we get from the dexterity, and we have to compensate elsewhere in the gear. Like I said, if we have a flat roll of 400 in our crown, that would be enough, but since I don't, I have here in the gloves basically. And then of course we have these strike skills target one additional enemy that is mandatory for the build. And then I bought this belt that has two attribute modifiers and high life and high res. One thing to mention here is that you are going to need a couple of high resistances mod, since the Omni was actually nerfed in this league. We are actually kind of needing at least a couple of high res mods so we can compensate with that. And yeah, then I had to change my shield, since changing the tree, actually we are going to lose some spell suppression, and we have to compensate that in the shield. As you can see, I have some other rest. The avoid elemental ailments is mandatory to at least have 30, and then a high life and the spell suppression. I think I have overcapped. I am overcapped by 4, so you can actually in this case have 13, and that will be the cap actually. And finally, one of the most important pieces for the transition is actually getting a lethal pride with a lot of good stats that we're going to see now in the POE. So this is the lethal pride that I got. You have to make sure that you have at least 10% of extra of any attribute. So for example, I have here 5% increase in strength. I have 5 more here, 5 more here, and here. So I have a total of 20% more strength. And also I have some more stuff that is also useful for the build. I have here and here some extra chance to intimidate the enemies. So I also think that if we, for example, tick the option here that is the enemy intimidated, since we hit so fast and we have a 20% to intimidate, we can check it, and as you can see, we have a pretty big increase in the damage. So that's actually pretty good. And I also got a 20 increase damage, and we also have some life here that is never bad. Then for the 3 changes, we are going to inspect all the nodes that we had here. I remember that the initial build had all these damage nodes that went to the projectile thing, and then through the life and the mana and the suppression that we're going to lose and compensate with our shield. And instead of all of that, we are going to take this shortcut and connect the 3 from the upside side, and we are going to save a lot of points here that we're going to invest in some other stuff that now that we are using Omni, we are going to they are going to provide even more damage than it did before. So one of the clusters that we are going to get now is this one that gives us some extra flat attributes and percentage attributes. That is all of that is going to be applied later on the omniscience. And we get this mastery that gives us more flat attributes based on the amount of masteries passive that we have allocated. And we're also getting this accuracy cluster, since, like I have already mentioned, we lose all of our dexterity and we have to compensate in some way. So we are getting also these points right here, and we are also getting the mana reservation efficiency for the precision. And yeah, some extra accuracy will make up for the loss of all of the hit chance. And as you can see here, I already have 99% of hit chance. It's actually pretty good. It would be ideal to cap it out so we don't lose a lot of our damage. But yeah, 99 is actually already pretty good. So to end the video, we are going to have this budget section where we are going to price all of the required items so we can expect a specific value for the transition. So we are going to start with the Omni itself. As you can see, as we already talked about, as this is an aspirational chase unique, so it's normal to be kind of expensive. This is going to be the piece that is going to cost more compared to the others. So yeah, you have to have in mind that this is actually 8 divines. As we scroll a little bit, is basically that price. As you can see, 19. I gotta say that the roll hit the omniscience can only roll the attributes requirement, and this does not matter at all since we are going to have a pretty high omniscience anyways, because otherwise if you have a low omniscience, the amulet won't give you the crazy bonuses that it gives. So yeah, don't mind for this roll. I'll get something like 17, and that's more than enough. I'm pretty sure that 15 also is enough, but you can check that with your own build in POE. And then we can see, for example, the crown that I actually crafted myself. I'm not sure how much this would be, but I'm pretty sure that is way less than 5 divs. I would say 3 divs max, maybe less. And we are going to check the ring, for example, that I have the search here. And no, it's not this one, it's this one. We have 45 to all of the attributes at least, and it has to be a shaper influence ring. And we have here, for example, a ring that is an amethyst ring with a lot of stats and a decent roll of life that is crafted. But yeah, this actually will do it for the build. This is actually one of the pretty similars of the one that I have, and it's around 5 dips. This is a bit more. This is 8, and this is 10. I don't think that this actually worth that much, so I would wait for better prices. As you can see, there are orders for 2. They are not the amethyst ring, but they are around 2 to 3 divines. Then we can check the belt. I got a belt with a lot of attributes, with 2 of them being at least 40 plus, a high life, and one of the resistance that we need to have in some of our pieces that I choose to have it on the belt. And yeah, as you can see, it's around one divine. I would prefer Stitch and Vice, since we can socket jewel for extra damage, life, and rest. So yeah, this is actually one of pretty similar to the one that I have. I also have craft the elemental damage. So yeah, it's basically, yeah, one divine. Then we had the gloves. I have the search here. We need gloves that has attack speed. This is mandatory. High life roll, and we want at least one empty suffix for the craft of the aspect of the cat, and at least some of some resistances, so we don't end up making too much pressure in the rest of the gear. So this is very cheap actually. This is 10 chaos, 20 chaos. I actually bought mine for around 50 chaos. One thing that you have to consider is that you need an empty prefix and an empty suffix, because you want to craft the aspect of the skill, and you also want to craft the pierce penetration, pierce, not penetration, and one is a suffix and the other one is a prefix. So you want to search for some gloves that has 2 prefixes and 2 suffixes. For example, this one is not good. Let me show you an example. Like this one, it's pretty similar to the one that I have. This is full evasion, and I this have 2 prefixes and 2 suffixes. So we can craft on top of these 4 mods the pierce mod, and also the aspect of this cat skill, of the cat skill in the menagerie. So 50 chaos, pretty cheap also. And then we have to get, let me see if I'm not forgetting anything. I think that I updated the shield for, I don't know, it was way less than 1 div. And then yeah, then we have to get a leader pride. This is a bit tricky because you cannot search directly from the trade side. You have to actually rely on the POE DB G-Wheel emulator. So, but yeah, you have to get at least with a 10% extra attribute, for example, strength, and some other stuff that you find it good for build, and to be also in the nodes that we already have spec'd. Never expect or random stuff to get mods from the G-Wheel, even if it's double damage. I wouldn't recommend that. Try to get good mods on the keystones, that on the notables that we already have spec'd in the tree. And yeah, basically it's that. After you have all of those pieces, you can then equip them all at the same time with the omniscience, with omniscience, sorry, and you'll have your damage to be spiked out in comparison to the previous version without the Omni. And yeah, this is basically it. That's all I have to say for the transition to the Omni version for the Lightning Strike Raider.